Hello, everyone. It's Mari here with episode number 24 of Tried, Trendy, and True. Today I'm going to be working with the beautiful Crafter's Companion Nature's Garden Wildflower collection. And I'm going to start off with this beautiful embossing folder. This is called the Wonderful Wildflowers folder. And it's a 2D embossing folder that just creates this most beautiful bouquet of florals in a raised image. And I'm going to be doing the letterpress technique here with the folder. What I'm going to do is spritz my A2 size cardstock with a little bit of water. And now what I'm going to do is take the embossing folder, and on the smooth side, I'm going to go ahead and brayer some ink. So what I'm doing here is just feeling for which side of the embossing folder I want to brayer my ink onto. And I'm going to do the side that is the smooth side. So where the impression of the image is indented. And in that way, I'm going to not get ink on the actual flowers, but just the background. And so I'm just taking my brayer here onto a Gina K ink pad, and I'm going to just go ahead and try to evenly distribute the ink. Now, this is not going to create a perfect inked up background. It's going to be quite distressed looking, but that's what I wanted. I was definitely going for that. And so I'm just going to get enough ink on there so that there's at least as best as I can a solid bit of ink on that background. I love this color, by the way. It's absolutely gorgeous. And once I'm happy with the amount of ink on there, I'm going to take my paper and put it on the opposite side of the folder, right up to where the folder bends there at the top, and I'm going to go ahead and close that up, and now I'll run that through my Gemini, and you can just see that it transfers the ink onto the background, leaving the flowers all white. And I love that. I think it's a really great technique with an embossing folder. Now I'm also going to be using the Mailbox Flowers dies from Crafter's Companion from that Wildflower collection. This is actually a set of 14 dies. There's a ton of dies in that set. And I'm going to, again, use these gorgeous Gina K inks, and I'm going to just color the white die cut flowers that I've die cut from that die set, just using a smaller blending brush here and my silicone mat. And I love the silicone mat for this purpose because my die cuts are going to kind of stick to that mat and not wiggle around a whole bunch. And I can just use my one hand there to kind of hold the bottom of it in place. I'm doing a 2-color blend on there just to give it more depth and dimension. And I love this method of coloring die cuts. It's really easy. You can customize your die cuts to whatever color you like if you don't have a specific color of cardstock, but you have the color of ink. So you can just take your blending brushes and colorize your pieces to however you want them to look. Now these dies are just so gorgeous, and you can see all of the beautiful detail I'm getting with them. And I'm just showing you, I'm not going to show you ink blending every single piece, but just showing you that method. And what I'm going to do now is I've taken a 1/2-inch circle punch, and I cut out just some white circles, and I'm going to use those to add the centers to these little blooms here with a little bit of foam adhesive on the back of the white circle there. And I'm just going to add that into the center of the florals just to create that little pop of white on those really pretty ink blended flowers. Now I did use a Gina K master layout. I believe this one is Master Layouts 5, and I used that to die cut out this stitched circle. Then I just used a scallop circle punch from my stash to create a white backer. Now what I'm going to do with these pieces is just create a little flower garden of these little die cut florals on this little focal point I've created with these circles. And that's going to be the main embellishment for the front of my card. So just a really fun and easy little way to create a focal point with your dies. And I just had a lot of fun creating this. I wanted to, when I chose the colors to colorize the flowers with the Gina K inks, I stuck with a color palette that is going to match the patterned paper from Wildflower, and I'll show you that here in a bit. Now I did size this paper down here to 3 3/4 by 5, And in that way, it's just 1/4 of an inch smaller than my card base here. So I have an A2 size card base. And, or actually I should say that's 4 by 5 1/4, I believe. Now this is the beautiful 6x6 Wildflower paper pad. So stunning. I just love this so much. And what I did was I just took a strip of one of the papers from that pad. I'm going to cut this down to 4 inches by 2.5 inches. And that's just going to be a little grounding spot for my little circle bouquet. And I just had to stop the voiceover there for a second to cough. So now I've got that trimmed down, and I'm going to go ahead and add that onto my card front with a little bit of liquid adhesive here. And I didn't want to cover up too much of that beautiful embossed background. So I'm trying to just maintain as much of that beautiful embossing in the background here, but adding a really nice focal point to the front of my card. So I'm going to add a little bit of foam adhesive to the back of the scallop circle here and adhere that onto that strip of pattern paper. And I wanted to put this over to the left a little bit, and that's going to allow a little space for some of the work that I'm going to do here with the sentiment. So I'm just going to go ahead and add that down. And I like how that's looking. It's quite a card. It's a card with a lot of dimension, and I'm okay with that. Sometimes if you know that you're not going to be mailing a card, I'm totally fine with adding a lot of dimension to the project. Now I'm taking some of that Gina K ink again. I've watered it down on my block and picked that up with a little brush, and I'm just splattering that on. I'll basically use that same technique, but this time with a little bit of white paint. I'm going to use some Dina Wakley white gloss spray for this, and I'll just put a little bit onto my block there again. And I try not to put things like this on my self-healing mat, just because the self-healing mat doesn't clean super well when it has paints and stuff on it. So I'm just putting a little bit of paper towel to protect my surface down here while I splatter with the white, and just giving a generous splatter of that white. I really like the effect that that gives. Just adds that really pretty dimension again to the background. Now I'm also going to use just a little bit of gold splatter here as well, and just add that in. And now I'm going to use the Gina K die set here. That's the Love You Trio die set. I love this set so much. It's beautiful. And I cut out this intricate love from black cardstock 3 times. I'm going to layer that up just by using some liquid adhesive and sticking those 3 layers together just to create a really nice dimensional and solid sentiment for the front of my card here. I love how delicate this is. I think it's super pretty, and the black does really pop off of the card there. I'm not sure if you can see it super well in the video, but the black love word here does show up really nicely. I'm going to place that over top of my little bouquet, and then there's another little die that's part of that Love You Trio die set that die cuts out the word you. And so I'm going to go ahead and adhere that onto the pattern paper area there as well. And I will take the little center of the word you that was die cut out and add that back into the center just with a little bit of adhesive. And that's going to finish off this card. So I love the different elements of the Wildflower collection from Crafter's Companion. And there's so many beautiful pieces in this Nature's Garden collection. It's gorgeous. And I wanted to share a couple of cards today with this collection. And here you can just see this first one is finished. Now the second project, I'm going to be using the Wildflower wreath die. This die works really well for a lot of different kinds of elements. I've used this for photos on a scrapbooking layout. I've used this in a bunch of different ways. Today I'm going to use it for a shaker card. So I cut out so I have a card base that's 5 by 5, and this piece here is 4 3/4 by 4 3/4. So I die cut out the wreath from that white paper that's 4 3/4 square. And now I'm just going to add a little bit of double-sided tape on the back. I cut a piece of acetate slightly smaller than 4 3/4 square, and I'm going to adhere that to the back of this wreath piece here for my shaker. So I'm going to make a shaker card out of this one. A die like this is perfect for making shaker cards, but I love that the die set also comes with the circle die, so that if you wanted to cut this out as a wreath that's a circle piece that's separate from your card base, you can definitely do that as well. Or you could use that circle die to cut out a piece of pattern paper that will fit perfectly behind. So many different ways that you can use that, and I love that it comes in two separate pieces. So here you can just see I'm taking that acetate and adding that onto the back. Now I'm going to use some foam adhesive here. I'm just going to cut a really long strip and then double it up. Then I'll take my Teflon scissors and trim this in half. And this is going to help me to create my shaker element. So I'm going to just use this foam adhesive to create the dimension that I need for my sequins for my shaker element here. So just going to finish trimming this in half. I'll take the release paper off here. And once the release paper is off, I can start sticking this down and getting it to the right size that I want it to be. Now you can see that there's a little bit of a narrow margin around the edge of this wreath, and so that's why I had to trim the foam tape in half. And just the strip that I cut there was actually almost the perfect length to do all four sides of this 4 3/4 square piece of cardstock here. So I'm just going to make sure that I get those all in place and just trimming those out so that they're going to be making sure that there's no gaps. So I just want to make sure that the foam adhesive is all butted up against each of the last pieces so that there's no spots for the sequins to escape once I put the sequin mix into the shaker element here. So I'm just going to finish that up, and this is just a really simple way to make a quick shaker. This did not take me long to do at all. And I love a good shaker because I just feel like people love getting them. They're interactive, they're pretty, and you can use them for almost any occasion type of card. I'm going to use a little bit of liquid adhesive on the foam adhesive as well, just so that I have a little bit of opportunity to wiggle this into place when I get it onto my card base. So like I said, my card base is a top folding 5 by 5 inch white piece of cardstock here, and I have it taped to my surface here just so that I can put my sequin mix on top. The sequin mix is from Honeybee Stamps. It's the Amethyst Crystal Sequin Mix. It's really, really pretty. It has silvers and whites, different tones of purples, and a little bit of blue in there as well. I'll put a generous amount on there, and then I'll just spread it around a little bit. And you can also treat your paper with anti-static powder as well to avoid static in the shaker parts here, just because the acetate tends to be a little bit staticky, and it does work a little bit better if you use some anti-static powder in there. So now I'm just gingerly placing that over top of the sequin mix, and I'll give that a really good press. And once I feel like that's well adhered, I'll take the tape off and remove this from my craft mat here, and I'll be ready to add the rest of the details for this project. So I really love that wreath die. I think it's beautiful. I love those delicate little floral and foliage bits that are die cut out when you cut that. I think it's just really stunning, and lots of different applications for that die for sure. This is the Stay Wild sentiment set from the Wildflower collection. So many really adorable sentiments there, and I've definitely used this set on scrapbooking layouts as well. There's just some really versatile sentiments in that set, and I'm going to take some VersaFine Clair Nocturne, nice dark crisp black ink, and ink up that stamp and then swing that over. I did die cut this out with a Gina K Master Layouts scallop die, and I'm going to just go ahead and stamp that sentiment on there, and that'll be ready to go for my shaker card front. Now I did use a circle punch. This is a 1.5 inch punch, I believe. And I punched out a piece of pattern paper from that 6x6 paper pad. And now you can just see that that sentiment is going to fit on there perfectly. I'm going to adhere that onto the acetate with a little bit of double-sided tape. But first I'm going to pop that sentiment up with some foam adhesive. So I'll just take a couple of little foam dots here and add that, center it as best I can onto the pattern paper. I love that that pattern paper has those beautiful purple tones in it that match up with the sequin mix that I chose. And I'm just going to pop this up and then add my double-sided tape onto the back and adhere that onto the acetate. I like to use the double-sided tape whenever I'm adhering something to acetate. I just feel like it's a really great adhesive choice for that type of product. And so I'm just going to go ahead and add that, burnish that on there nicely, take the release paper off and add that on, making sure that I'm getting that as close to centered as I possibly can. And I believe I probably use my tweezers for this process here as well. So friends, those are my 2 cards today using the gorgeous Nature's Garden collection Wildflower from Crafter's Companion. The Nature's Garden collections are definitely on trend. They've come out with just some most stunning, beautiful collections, and I love this Wildflower collection. It's brand new, and I hope you were inspired today to create some really pretty cards, and if you get a chance, grab that collection because I feel like it is just absolutely stunning. Thanks so much for watching me today, friends. I'll see you again next month for another episode of Tried, Trendy, and True. Take care. Bye-bye.